Hey everybody, I'm Tim, here to infuse some good news into your day. And you're watching Cigars Daily. You know, I'd like to start this video out by just sharing something that I've learned, a profound lesson that's come to me in the time that I've spent in the world of premium cigars. Over the last 10 years, I've learned a lot about living in a world where things are uncertain. Like, this is like the key theme of the cigar industry for me is uncertainty. Is some new thing going to crush the industry and destroy what we love? Seems like there's always something that's about to do that. It's just amazing. But at the end of the day, about 80% of what we worry about never ever comes to fruition. And I've heard it said that if you feel anxiety, it's because you're living in the future. If you feel depressed, it's because you're living in the past. But you can feel peace if you live in the moment. And in this moment, there's great news, especially for the aficionados who really appreciate the infused, the flavored, and the aromatic premium cigars that are on the market these days. If you haven't stayed up with all the news, this was like the most recent very big concern in the cigar world is that the previous administration for our federal government was like gung-ho on completely outlawing flavored cigars, and they were going to go after menthol cigarettes. It was like a big part of what they wanted to do in conjunction with the FDA. And that all seems to have truly backed off at this point. It's something that I spent no small amount of time learning about and reading about because in the world of premium cigars, the infused market is actually something that's pretty important, especially to cigar makers. You see, the cigar world values infused cigars, and not because cigar makers sit around and are like, "Oh, cherry," like all day long. It's because there are so many aficionados to whom this is such a valuable part of the market. It's the guy who goes out to the cigar bar with a few friends who have never had a cigar before, or he takes a date there, or people who are lighting up on their porch and they have a few first timers with them, or people who really just enjoy that extra scent, that extra little bit of sweetness that comes with cigars like the M by Macanudo, which has coffee and chocolate in it, or even the M Espresso, or the M Bourbon. There are cigars that have vanilla flavor like Espinosa's Azucar. The one that I have right now is Asylum's Cool Brew. A cigar with this chocolatey, minty flavor profile and that sort of added sweetness. And this is exactly what they were all after. The federal government really wanted to get rid of these completely. And in the world of cigars, it really freaked out cigar makers. If you go back just 2 years, a lot of cigar makers wouldn't have touched the infused cigar world with a 10-foot pole. They thought this stuff was going to be gone for sure. And again, it's like a big thing in the cigar world. There's always something threatening to crush what we love to do. And then, just like that, an election happens, there's a change of administration, and the idea of wiping this out is something that's sort of in the rearview mirror at this point. These days, I am watching cigar makers flood back to the world of blending infusion. Hell, even after Asylum put out the Cool Brew, they're also working on another one that's supposed to be like a banana split, which is a wild, crazy idea. There's even new infusions coming out from Macanudo that I've been reading about very recently. There's a lot of big brands who are excited about this idea of infusion because it does add something just a little bit beyond what a traditional cigar can do in terms of, ordinary flavor notes. Now, at the same time, I have to tell you, it doesn't mean that something bad isn't going to happen or that some new regulation or outlawing what we love isn't going to come down the pipelines. It's certainly always possible. And this is like the change of an administration and just a shifting of the winds, which is very different than what we saw previously when a judge shot down the FDA's deeming rules over premium cigars. This is something that happened over the last couple of years and has been a big deal because these industry-crushing regulations the FDA was going to do were literally set aside by a judge. The judge said, you cannot do these things. You have to go back to the drawing board and actually listen to these premium cigar people before you create regulations. That's a very good thing for people who like their freedoms and rights. But when it comes to the infused world, this is just something that's not really a priority like it was before. So we don't have like a decisive opinion from a judge or a legislator coming out and saying, no, we're specifically not going to do this. It just means that it's not being pursued with the same burning desire that it was pursued with before. But for all the premium cigar people, we kind of take what we can get. We're always at the mercy of the next decision maker coming in and saying, you know what, let's wipe this off the face of the map. And so I say this is good news, but of course that also really depends. It's really good news for like a chunk of people. It's good news for people who are aficionados who really enjoy infused cigars that are flavored and infused. And that person happens to live somewhere, a city, county, or state, where they aren't working to outlaw flavored cigars anyway, because that's been another substantial move right now. While there's war on tobacco continues on, there are certainly plenty of places where people are living where the state is working on a flavor ban, or the city, or the province, or the county, or however the hell they divide up land and people groups these days. There are places where it's like going through. They're voting it through. And now flavors are no longer allowed to be on the market. It's something to kind of pay attention to depending on where a person lives. And so certainly for cigar makers, this good news on the horizon. It means they get to continue practicing the art of creating premium cigars. But for some people, it's still a really challenging thing, because while the rest of the world's going to get to continue on looking toward infusions, it means that you can't where you live, and that's very, very difficult. It's especially difficult now. I mentioned that cigar makers are sort of flocking back to the world of infusion and sort of creating these interesting projects. And as they continue to refine the cigar making process and do a better job of creating balance and complexity, they are creating infused cigars that do a better job of balancing sweetness and flavor notes along with a more traditional premium flavor profile. It's been one of my gripes about infused cigars for like ever, is that when I light up so many of the older infused cigars, it's so sugary sweet that the second the cigar touches my lips, it just coats my mouth with this sugary taste that I can't taste anything else. And it's not something I consider to be desirable. So if you watch my channel, you almost never see me lighting up infused cigars. It's something I rarely talk about, even though it's such a critical part of the industry for cigar makers. And so now as an industry, we charge on, continuing to practice the art of crafting complexity in premium blends, refining that art of hand-rolling cigars and creating exciting ideas, and of course, waiting for the next industry-threatening thing to come along. And I pray to God I'm around to still make videos for it when that happens. But certainly I'm curious as to what you think. The move away from this, is this a good move for the premium cigar world? Are you someone who is thinks the infused cigar world is an important part of the industry? Or do you think it is, but you live in one of those places where it's it's going to be outlawed anyway, so who gives a rip? I'm curious to hear from you guys. Drop your comments down below. There's a lot more to see out there, and I'm curious what you guys think when you see it. And of course, again, check this video out. Get a lot more out of it when you watch it on Rumble and the community on Cigars Daily Plus. Thank you all so much for watching. This is Tim, signing off for Cigars Daily, and I will see you in the comments.